So hi, Lucille. Let me get you online. Lucille is a dear friend. I know her for the past few years. We've been board members under MHI, which used to be so many name changes. It's become like an Indian story. So many name changes from Meta Medicine Association to Meta Health International right now. And Lucille was always there. I've always looked at her and been amazed with how much she's doing. So thank you so much for accepting my invite, and thank you again. And I leave you to weave your magic. So guys, all of you, Lucille White here from South Africa. Thank you.
Okay, hi, thank you. So first of all, it was just so wonderful to be able to connect to a memory. And I was sitting here thinking how divinely scripted this session was with the dancing and what I'm going to be sharing. So it was a memory when I was about 14 years old. And I come from quite a poor family, but I managed to, I think I was 15. I was 15 years old. I started working and I could afford dancing lessons. So I was really, really excited to finally go do dancing lessons, which was something I've always wanted to do. So that's I thought it was just so perfect. And so I did the first term, but what I had struggled with my whole life, and my talk is going to be part of that, was anxiety. So I really, really pushed myself. I really, really wanted to dance. And I met a dance teacher, and we were her first students. And there was only about 5 of us. And I loved it, but I was so crippled with anxiety that it became quite problematic. And then we had to do, at the end of the term, we had to dance in front of the parents, which wasn't, I mean, there were just like a few parents in the front. And I just couldn't do any of my moves. I absolutely broke down, had massive anxiety, panic attacks, and that was it. I just decided to abandon it. I couldn't. It was just too consuming, this anxiety. And yeah, and it's kind of interesting because, yeah, I guess when we're talking about a dream, when I was young, I never really had a dream. Apart from, if there was a little dream that I had, it was a dream to dance. And I had to give that up because of my anxiety. So it's just so beautiful how we that set the tone for my talk today. And so, yeah, just my talk is about finding out what my purpose was, finding out my soul truths and my talents. And so I'm going to just share with you just a few, I guess, defining moments in my life that, defining moments that set me on a different course and also set me back on course, back on track. So there was a lot of divine interventions, so to speak. But I don't want to talk about too much of my background, because I kind of feel like I've had 2 lives in one so far. So I'm going to pick up on the second life. And but briefly, just tell you a little bit about my background. I came from quite a struggling family. There was massive amount of drama, a lot of dysfunction and abuse and all of that. But it really felt like it was my stuff. It was a movie being played out in front of me. And I think by the age of 2021, yeah, 21, 22, yeah, somewhere around there. Kind of had an opportunity to go overseas, and I jumped this opportunity. I kind of made it happen. Just prior to that, I had met a friend that had been from UK, and she told me about her travels, and she really just took my tiny little mind, because came from a small town, and blew it out, and I realized, wow, there's a world out there. So I met this bloke who I landed up marrying, and it was my ticket out of South Africa, and I just grabbed it. I knew I had to kind of leave, and I remember flying out and being in Cape Town airport, and this huge big weight had just kind of fell off, and that was it. I left my life behind, and I was about to embark in this new uncharted territories. I didn't know what it was about, but anyway, it was an opportunity to leave that kind of dark life in many ways, and a life where I had become so unnoticed. You know, I was drifting around in everyone else's shadows. I was just there. So yeah, I got to London. I landed up marrying this person I went over with. It was a marriage of convenience from my side, because I knew after 2 years I didn't want to go back to South Africa, that I wanted to continue with my life. And so yeah, after 3 years, I landed up getting divorced, but I had my British passport and I could stay. So I divorced him, and I guess the fun started for me. I landed up, I was working, I was doing corporate finance in London. So I was earning a good salary. But I just started having loads of fun, loads of fun, more fun than I'd probably ever had in my entire life. And I just met the most amazing people. And coming back to dance, I was dancing, and I was going out all the time. I was going out to clubs. But I was doing it quite differently, because I still had anxiety. But one way I discovered that I could dance and not have anxiety was to take drugs. So I started taking lots of drugs. And the drugs, I mainly took the drugs to stay awake and dance. But what it allowed me to do is to get up on stage and just dance and dance and dance. And I could see myself for the first time in my life. I could see myself, but it was through the filter of all these drugs. And this is kind of where I'm wanting to start off with this story. So up until that stage, I guess I was on. I wasn't a very. I don't believe anything's incorrect, but I was on a very different path than I believe now that I should have been on. And it was going into, it started out in a really crazy place, then getting married, then getting into going out and being into drugs and being into all of that stuff. It just kind of started going down it'll continue down a dark path until I landed up in a coma. I took too much drugs and I landed up in a coma. And it was a very interesting time, because whilst I was there was two friends of mine that were there. No one knew about it. No one actually knew anything about my family, because I never spoke about my family. No one had one contact number to contact anyone from my family that could tell them I'm in a coma. I was that disconnected with my family and creating my own life. But I remember lying in bed, and it was about 2:00 in the morning. And it was the most blissful experience. It was so beautiful. Just by the way, I could hear everything, but I couldn't do, I mean, all my vital signs. I mean, I literally was in a coma. But I remember having this dialogue with myself, thinking, well, I can't really think of one thing that would make me want to stay. I was so prepared and so certain that I'm absolutely okay to leave. You know, yeah. So I lay there and have had this dialogue for a long time. And then I kind of quietened my mind and I heard this voice, but you have not done your purpose yet. And I'm like, what do you mean not done my purpose yet? You've not fulfilled your purpose. And I was very curious about that. As I never ever considered the idea of a purpose. It was not in my way of thinking, and no one spoke about purpose or anything like that before, but it did make me really, really curious. I'd not done my purpose yet. Curious enough for me to decide that I need to do my purpose. I need to find out what my purpose was. And it was when I made that decision that my vital signs started coming back. But it was a long time. And slowly it came back. And I remember after that, I mean, I don't know what happened that time that I was in a coma, if it was literally, if I had been put on the right track. But I went in a completely different direction from that moment onwards. And it was really, really interesting because it was thereafter I met Terry Alston, who ran NLP World, and I landed, it was just literally just bumped into them. I saw a table and wrote my name, and one thing led to the next, and I was doing an NLP course. And for me, it was fantastic because I had struggled my whole life at school because I was severely dyslexic. I left in grade 7. So I could read a page but not know what I read. So the idea of doing any form of further education was just not an option. I never even contemplated, but there was something about this NLP that really spoke to me. First of all, Terry spoke in metaphors and he told stories and he was animated. And I thought, wow, finally a teacher that I could understand. So I did that. I wasn't very good. I remember doing my practitioner, and again, something very, very interesting happened at that practitioner course. The end of the course, we had to pair up with someone, and one day we were the practitioner, and then the other day we were the client. And I remember pairing up with this woman who was a psychic, and she did animal communication. She had flown over from Sweden, and I had just been spending 2 weeks, and I had a full toolkit of techniques and scripts and things like that I could use. But for some reason, I said to her, I just get a feeling that we just need to find a space. And we were at this hotel, we found this little entrance space, and I said, I don't know why, but I would like you to just sit in that corner, and I'm going to sit in this corner. And I kept on apologizing, and I said, I mean, this seems absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know why, but would you mind if we just sat and we were just present with each other? And it was the most incredible feeling, just being so present with an individual, which I'd never ever done before. And I remember during the session, I was a client, and she would rub her hip, and then she would kind of settle back into her body, and then I could see her kind of rubbing her neck, and then settle back into her body. And then afterwards, she gave me feedback, and she said, it was really interesting because I would have these pains, and then they would kind of disappear, and then I would have another one and they would disappear, and then eventually I was so relaxed in my body that I saw you, but you were this old wise man. And I was like, well, that's really weird. And she saw me, she didn't see me as a woman, she saw this old wise man with long hair. And it was one of those incredible experiences, and something very, very different to anything I had ever come across. And I remember walking out and I said to Terry, I said, what is with all the, and I started moaning at him. I said, you don't need all these techniques. And I started having a go at him. And he was saying, calm down, Lucille, because all these students were around. And it just didn't make sense. But anyway, moving on, at the end of the training, I met Suzanne Billander. Now, Suzanne Billander had been one of the first metamedicine trainers, and she gave us a talk. And straight away, I just felt it in my heart that, hey, I don't know what this is. I mean, I'm seriously veering off into a different direction. I've been doing corporate finance for 7 years. Metamedicine, I just, even the word medicine, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't study medicine. But something made me just this pull that I had to go do it. Next thing I knew, I met Richard Fluke in Bristol, and I was on his 2-day seminar. And I remember wandering around the room, and he had all these metamedicine charts. And I was hearing the words that he was speaking, but it was kind of there, nothing made sense yet, until I saw one of the charts, and I looked at skin. And I remembered that the day after I left my husband, I broke out from head to toe in a rash. It was so bad that the doctors wouldn't even register. Eventually, some sympathetic one said, I can, register, and she gave me cortisone. And then I saw the word separation. I thought, whoa, in all that time, no one actually asked me, was there a separation? But it was enough for me to be convinced, hey, there's something in this, because I was not a person that was easily convinced about anything. It doesn't matter how well you pitched it or how well you did it. I really needed to be convinced. And when I saw that, I thought, sure, okay, separation, skin, there was a connection there. And I went through the next 2 days kind of hearing, but I had that in my mind, and I didn't need much convincing to do the prac. So I did the first practitioner course in the UK with Johannes Visslinger and Anton Bada, Richard Fluke, and I think it was Suzanne as well. And again, this was a really new world for me. I mean, I didn't come from a background with alternative therapies or that way of thinking. The only medication we had in our family was a paracetamol. So if you were sick or half dying or whatever, you take a paracetamol and that was it. I had never been, so it was so new to me. And I remember on the Practitioner, another crazy story. Again, I wasn't good at what I was doing. It felt like another language. I remember on the second day, we had to pair up. And I landed up pairing up with this homeopath that had flown over from South Africa. And he'd been a homeopath for 30 years. And we had to do a mini diagnosis on each other. And it was my turn to ask him some, case study questions. And I remember I was so bad at it. you know, through all these courses that I was doing, I was really struggling with my anxiety. But particularly on this occasion, I think I almost had a panic attack in that moment. And I think he could see that I was really, really struggling. And he kind of took over the questions and helped me out. But I just remember that I remember feeling so embarrassed for some reason. The spotlight was just too much for me. And it's almost embarrassing to say this, but I did make a decision in the moment that I am going to turn my greatest challenge into my greatest gift. And I set the intention of becoming the best diagnostician in the world. In that moment, I was like, I'm never going to have this experience again. So, yeah, so I kind of left there, and I was very, very excited because shortly afterward, Dr. Bader, he created a CT scan seminar in Germany. So we were all like Rob Wagmari and Carl Dawson, all of us, we were so excited. We had to go to Germany. We met Dr. Kwesi there. He took us for our CT scan, and we were really excited. And for the first time in my life, I thought, wow, I've been a nobody my whole life. And here I'm in Germany, and I'm doing a CT scan. I thought, see, what was going on here? It's like, am I in the same world? This is crazy stuff. Anyway, I got back to London, and Richard gave me a phone call. He said, Lucille, and I go, yes, Richard. He says, I've been looking at your CT scan. Oh, yes, Richard. And well, you have got a ring in these two areas, the branchial arch and the thyroid. And if you have these two rings, you should have anxiety. And I kind of paused there, and I could feel this weird feeling coming over me. And he says, do you have anxiety? I go, yes, Richard, I do actually have anxiety. And I've had anxiety my whole entire life, and not one single person has known about it. My family hasn't known about it. It's been my greatest challenge, and the challenge that never allowed me to even dream, because I knew that even if I had a dream, my anxiety would cripple it. But I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy, crazy stuff. How can someone look at my CT scan and confirm and ask me if I've got anxiety, the most personal, deepest pain, and they just fired that question? So for me, that was so huge. That was so big that I knew that I had to somehow be part of taking this information out, because, you know, quite frankly, a lot of the doctors were just, you know, when they ask questions about washing powder, have you changed your washing powder because this is what's the cause of your skin rash? That would just infuriate me. But this there was something in it, you know, there was something that was worth pursuing. And I was very, very privileged. No, after that, he did try ask me questions, you know, trying to get the root cause, and we spent a little time with it, but we just weren't getting it. So I had been calling my mom up to South Africa and going, Mom, I've just got a sense of this. Can you confirm this? But on this particular occasion, I said to Richard, we're not really going anywhere. I think I need to phone my mom. Actually, no, I'm missing out an important bit of information, because what was difficult for me is to try find the root cause, at least what age. And I learned metakinetics, and I learned how to use the pendulum. And that gave me a route in to get to the conflict shock. And the 7 months in the womb. And I thought, oh, shit, I'm doomed. How am I going to know what's 7 months in the womb? So anyway, I phoned my mom and I said, Mom, was there something that was happening at 7 months in the womb where I felt powerless, and it was a frontal fear attack? And I was really proud of myself because asking those firing questions. And I just hear this silence on the other side and a long pause. And then she eventually answered and said, yes, Lucille, there was. Your dad came home really, really drunk, and he was really, really abusive, and he punched me in the belly a few times. And I thought, wow, sure, there was another massive, massive big confirmation. And it took me a while for that information to land, because it was that moment that caused my anxiety my whole life. Anxiety before I was even born. So, I was born at a bit of a disadvantage, but it was such a gift to be able to, in such a short time, get that bit of information that I could now work with, that I could literally turn this around. I could change the direction and maybe possibly even have dreams again. But, I was a very, very inquisitive person, and I always asked the why questions. And for me, even knowing the Uden moment, the conflict shock, and the organs it impacted, it still wasn't enough. I still wanted to know why the conflict shock, why that. I still had, after medicine, I had loads of questions, loads of whys. And I needed to have more information. And I remember it's so ironic, because on the 30th of June in 2009, that's short of 4 days now, I had a friend that came around, and she said, she's been learning some regression technique, and would I be a guinea pig? I loved being a guinea pig for anybody. So I was like, yeah, I'll be a guinea pig. And I also, it was very easy for me to get into trance. So I always made a very good guinea pig as well. And she put me into a trance state. And I regressed so far back. The only way I could explain this, it was as if I was regressing right back past through creation, and it was the moment before the Big Bang. In one way, it was the moment before, like, the conflict shock, if you want to just think of it in that way. And when I was there, I think I might have channeled, or I was gifted some information, really, really critical information about the conflict shock and why we get it. And for me, this was a massive turning point, because it gave me what was also missing was, what was the spiritual take on all this information that I was learning? How did it affect me? And how was it affecting my own personal spiritual evolution? And this conflict shock allowed me to realize that as a soul, we incarnated, and we incarnated to evolve certain aspects of ourselves. And the conflict shock actually set up the context for us to evolve those particular aspects. And it took me I I worked with this for about 4 years, where the conflict shock set up a belief, which allowed us to see a part of our soul in two ways, the polarity of that. And I, I, I remember after that session going to the coffee shop, and this information was still, I hadn't experimented, I didn't understand what it said, but I was like, okay, well, what do we call this? I've obviously received something, and I know in my heart it fits with the medicine and all of this. There's something, and what do we call it? And straight away the truth model came up, and I said, okay, well, we're going to call it the truth model. And I started experimenting with it. I called up all the trainers and my colleagues, and I said, please, I've got this information, can I test it on your health issue? And they kept on working out, and I was able to get in contact with their soul truth and how the organs fitted together, and the conflict shock and the emotions, and every single thing, every single little detail was as if it was so divinely scripted. There's no ways that it could have been made up. So this was very, very exciting for me, and this became my little baby. And I learned so much about the medicine and everything, but through my own interpretation. And I know that the truth model was for me because it just to satisfy the way I thought. So I did hundreds, hundreds of diagnoses in such a short space of time. But I also did over 100 of mine. It was as if I was taking every single shattered piece of crystal and pulling it back into the fabric of my reality, just pulling all these and making sense. And every time I did so, I was able to get to a place of peace. So even the most craziest of conflicts, the moment I got to why and how did it connect to myself, I was able to get to a place of peace. So and also just through going through life, if I in any challenge or a challenger, I was able to do that. So I was really excited. I wanted to fly back to South Africa. I hadn't been to South Africa for 3 years by that stage. I had actually been in the UK for 13 years, and I wanted to write a book. I wanted to write a book about all my discoveries, and I just thought this was the best thing. And I flew back to South Africa, planning on going there for 3 months, and well, 10 years later, I'm still here. Because after a month, I had a little bit of a holiday affair, and I fell pregnant. And that changed so much for me, because I chose not to go back to the UK, but I also did choose to, as a result, let go of my entire life. I had to let go of this medicine family, which I had such a strong soul connection with. I let go of all my friends. I let go of everybody. And for the first 2 years, I said to my son's father, that I knew in my heart that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life with him. But I made an agreement with him. I said, we've obviously attracted this child together, and we're going to be this child, his name's Luke's, his parents. And I never had parents, that would be together. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 1.5. So I said, I would like to live with you, be his parent. And we did live with each other for 3 years. And that was that was really, really wonderful, because we have got a great relationship as Luke's parents. And I said to him, I know that this meta medicine and the truth model, I know it's so important. And I want to be with Luke. So we agreed that I'd be at home, and I was still doing diagnoses online, and I was developing the truth model for 2 years, and I learned a lot, and things were going really great. And with regards to my anxiety, I was getting really comfortable on the camera. I had dissolved a lot of that anxiousness. I was getting so comfortable that I was starting to do video recordings. I had this ability to reenact conflict shocks. And yeah, things were good. Well, I was completely separated from the UK. I was so focused. I had Luke, and he was my focus, and I had my truth model, which was my other baby. And yeah, so things were okay. And then in 2012, my son's turned 2 years old. It was on his birthday. I got this phone call, and it was my mom's partner, and he said that your mom has been murdered. So I was like, wow, okay, sure. So anyway, I go to the farm where she was, so her body, and just, you know, before this, I was doing healing work, which was also really strange for me. I was doing things, not that I had studied it, but certain things were coming out, and I wasn't really sure of what was happening, but I just went with it. And when I went to go to my mom, I landed up the following day doing some energy healing. My cousin was there, and she said, well, put your hands over where her body was. And I did, and my hands kind of started moving automatically. It was very weird. It was a very, very weird and kind of scary feeling, because this had never happened to me before. But I was moving with the energy, and what was happening in this moment, it really felt like something was transforming inside of me, if I can put it that way. I mean, so hard to put words into something sometimes. And so this was going on for about half an hour, 45 minutes. And I actually started reenacting the event, the murder event. And then I continued doing this, and then all of a sudden my hands just dropped. And there was this really strong smell that filled the room that we were in. And I looked to my cousin, who was a policeman, and I said, what's going on? What's that smell? And she said, that's the smell of your mom. And I go, what do you mean? She says, she had often smelled that, experienced that. She says, no, that's the scent of her soul. I think she said that. And for me, that was also a very defining moment in working with energy, and also made a lot of sense with conflict shocks, how the energy got trapped. And I realized that in that moment, that what I was doing, because of the trauma of her murder, her energy had become trapped. And I was releasing that energy. And when I allowed that energy to release, I could smell the smell. So for me, it was, wow, okay, this is again, all these weird things were happening, all these, you know, I was changing in ways that it was kind of scary for me. Um, and I remember about 2 days later, I was in my bedroom and I had this walk-in wardrobe, and I opened up the door, and as I walked into the room, I could smell that same smell. And I didn't know what to do, but I quickly ran and grabbed a piece of paper. But that stage, I was able to um, tune into different words and make sentences. And my mother had actually given each of us a message, and it was very appropriate for my siblings and my niece. So I somehow channeled messages from her. So even this was crazy. I mean, I honestly didn't know what was going on, but all these weird new kind of abilities were emerging within me. And I remember the message, I think with my message was the message, don't judge, don't judge. And I really had to meditate on that for a long time, don't judge. So yeah, it was a very weird and interesting time, because a few months later, uh, my father, he something happened, and we received a text message not to go ever to see him again, and he actually lived a few doors away. Actually, I just want to rewind a little bit, going back to my mom. The day before I did a healing on her, we were very fortunate, and I feel very blessed to be able to do this, to have done this. Um, her body was still at the crime scene, and I asked the policeman, "Can we please go see and say goodbye to her?" And he looked at us, and usually they would never permit something like this, especially not with family going to see the body. And I explained, I said, I'm a healer and I'd just like to say a prayer. And eventually we managed to convince him, and we did. And I remember sitting by my mom, and I remember taking my finger and just placing it on her chin, and her chin was ice cold. And at that moment, I had a complete self-abandonment conflict. So that's the thalamus. But I didn't realize. I mean, I did a diagnosis after, but at that moment, I had left my body, and I think that the impact of that had this rippling effect in my field, because left my father disowned us afterwards. I realized I had created a setup where I had disconnected for my entire life in the UK. I had disconnected from both my parents. I didn't have a lot of friends in South Africa because I'd spent most of my adult years. I had, after the third year of living with my son's father, I decided to leave him because I didn't feel it was truth, and I didn't want my son to see a couple that was not actually in truth, not in love. I didn't want that. Even though we were friends, I just made that decision. But I realized that I had disconnected to everything. Every single thing in my life, I had my field just went, and I just had my son. And I also even started disconnecting to my other baby, which I was nursing. It was the truth model. It was like everything. I disconnected with that, disconnected with the medicine people, everybody. And it was a weird feeling, because I remember having this conversation with my sister, and I said, it feels surreal. It feels like I have literally stepped back into a coma. It feels like I'm in the coma and everything's going on around me, but my reality is going, woo. But not that I had stepped into a coma. It almost felt like I had gone back inside the womb. I had gone back into the womb, which was, in one way, is like a coma, because what I had experienced in my coma, I could hear everything, but I couldn't communicate. So I had gone back into this place, disconnecting from everything that I thought, wow, this is really great stuff. I have to pursue. So I am in this space of being in this weird coma. I remember having recurring dreams where I would be in London and I was trying to get back home, and home was so close, but I would go to the tube stations and look at the map and I could never get back home, but it was so close. So I had gone back into this place, and that was 7 years ago. And for the last 7 years has been the most interesting 7 years. It has had challenges, but pushing the challenges aside, there was something that I did not develop, and that was my birthright, and that was my purpose. One of my purposes for being here, when I had that conflict shock at 7 months in the womb, and when I tuned into my truth was having this extrasensory gift, this ability to tune into things in a very, very different way. Yes, one would call it a psychic, but even before evolving into a psychic, I cut off that gift and I lost my power. That was my birthright, and I severed that. So yeah, 38 years later, I had got to a place where I pushed out life completely. And I was back here in the womb, metaphorically. I was back here to pick up from where I probably left off from many, many incarnations, or my soul life, actually, but just think of the one soul life. And I was here to discover who I was, to be able to see me in the light for the first time. And it took me on an amazing, amazing journey. I would attract one client at a time. And with every client I had, I would do something quite unusual. Like, you know, it's actually quite interesting. I was always using my pendulum. I had scan charts. That was my tools that I worked with. I had even lost my pendulum. And I thought to myself, well, without the pendulum, how am I going to work? I can't work without a pendulum, because that's how I scan. But I lost it. So I had to lose that. And then one day, I lost my one scan chart. I had 2 scan charts. I lost that. And now I was faced with, okay, I don't have a pendulum. I don't have a scan chart. How am I going to work? I don't do muscle testing or anything. Like, how am I going to work? And I had to trust. I remember working with this person. We were in her lounge, And I think I still made a reference to this idea of trusting. And I was explaining to her that, I've lost my pendulum, I've lost all these things that I would normally work with, but I'm going to do the session with you. And I don't know how I'm going to do the session, but I'm going to do this session. And I am just going to have so much faith and so much trust. And I did. I went inside, and there was a part of me that I had to disconnect with that would allow the energy to find a new way and find a new avenue that will allow me to trust that I had something inside that wasn't on the radar, that wasn't to be perfectly honest, it was completely off the page. I started looking at the environment for clues. I started tuning into pictures. I almost became a little bit autistic in this ability to tune in to certain things. It was very scary for me to start off with. But the more I surrendered to trust that my soul knows how to do this, and if I just created space, the energy will move me in a direction that will give me the correct answers. And this was, it was very, very, very scary. It was very, very scary to trust myself so much. Trust myself like I've never ever trusted before, because I never had the power to trust myself before. So, this led me into tuning into and really, really developing my psychic abilities. I could, eventually tune into whole companies. I could tune into plants and animals and towns, and it didn't matter. It was just there. It's something that I could do. And eventually I started to telepathically, again, it was all part of this aspect of myself, telepathically communicate with anything, whether it was the spider in the room. I actually still feel quite bad. I created this outdoor room, and there was a corrugated roof, and I put an internal ceiling. And the following day I came back and I saw this huge big spider on the ceiling, and I thought, what are you doing in here? And as I communicated with that spider, he says, well, the day before I came in here, and this is where I used to sleep at night. And now you've just put the ceiling on. Every single thing in this room looks so different, and so I started communicating to animals or to the organs and all different things. And so for 7 years, I got in contact with that that part of myself, which I think, had I never ever got in contact with medicine, I would never have been able to have the privilege to even go to that place that in this life is what I wanted to really understand for me. It's what I wanted to evolve, or what I had been evolved, but I wanted to really test it out. It was the thing that would finally allow me to go into places where many people weren't able to go into, but needed to go into. I knew that it wasn't my job to do these massive transformations, but it was my contribution to go in and diagnose, tap into those little missing bits of information and bring it to light, to give others opportunity to work with something. I knew that was my path, that was my purpose, to also to be able to just allow a person to have some access to their soul truth, to that part, to give them the reason, why was it that you came? Why did you come here? What is it that you wanted to evolve? Did you want to be that dancer? Did you want to be that painter? To just to be able to make sense of their script, to know that, wow, it was divinely scripted. So just to be able to do that, I guess, yeah, it was such a wonderful opportunity to get back to all of those little moments and make sense of it. I remember it was, yeah, last Sunday was Father's Day in South Africa, and I was working with this client, and I haven't actually been working with the truth model or this method that I used working with people for many years. You know, I had disconnected with everything, and it came through in session, and I looked at her and I said, this is really odd, but it's something's wanting to come through, and your energy is wanting me to connect you to your soul truth. And I did. I got that information for her. And in that moment, she just burst into tears, really burst into tears. And as I witnessed how amazing and how special it was for her to just get in contact with that part of her truth, I just knew in that moment that that was my purpose. That if I could just do that one little thing, to be able to just allow that person to get in contact with that part of themselves, to be able to see themselves in that way, it was like, wow, if I never had a dream, that could be my dream. That could be my dream. And that would probably make me the happiest person ever if I could just do that every day of my life. Just that one little thing, to allow that person that opportunity to just take my gift and give them that chance of gaining that conscious awareness to their truth, to what is it that they have come to evolve in this life. And as a result, because I love talents, as a result, what a talent did they develop on their journey? Like with me in my conflict and that conflict shock, seven months in the womb, I was able to develop my talent as, you know, as a psychic, as a person to tune in to places that some people can't. And that is what I'm able to share with everybody. And it was just so amazing after that session. You know, usually in session, I don't know, maybe a feather would fall from the tree or a leaf or a stone. And I would usually bring that into session. And on this particular day, the only thing that I had from my father was this big seed pod. That's the only thing that I have that reminded me of my father. I mean, I haven't spoken to him for 7 years. And that seed pod came into session. And so we had a conversation about this, and my sister did something really, really funny. In South Africa, we have had the most severe lockdown in the world. It's been absolutely crazy through this corona. And one of the things that they stopped the sale of alcohol, and they stopped the sale of cigarettes. Now, my father's he's a smoker, and he's really, really been battling. He's been paying apparently a fortune for these boxes of cigarettes. But anyway, so my sister gets a B in her balance, and she sends my dad a message. They've actually been communicating. I've just been the only one that hasn't. And sends him a message saying, Dad, I've got a box of cigarettes for you, but you have to come fetch it. I've been living with my sister and he's never been here. And when she told me about this, all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, he can't fetch it. I'm here. And she says, no. Just let's just wait and see what unfolds. So 7 years later, I had this seed on my desk. A few hours later, I have my dad walk into this room that I'm working from, not seeing him. And yeah, it was just such a surreal moment of completion that I had gone back into the womb, developed what I needed to develop. I had pushed him aside, but when I had completed and actually brought that seed back in, he made, the presence of him actually came back into my field, and, we said hi, and that was it. But I needed to kind of push everyone away and kind of regroup with my purpose. And yeah, so that's my story.
Wow, you've been through some ups and downs and some life that not many people live. To be in coma, to see your mom not being there on this planet Earth, not to connect to your father for 7 years, and then connecting back. Wow. You were going to do some channeling for us. Would you want to do that still?
Yeah, so how are we off for time?
So it's 10:29. I would call Benaifa first so that she can do shells for you both, ladies.
Okay.
And then whoever is interested in channeling, they can stay back and you could do maybe channeling for us. That would be fine. If that's okay with people, and people who need to leave can leave. There's no problem.
Yeah, so what I thought of doing is maybe just connecting to the group, and I've started doing symbols and just get a little message, and based on that, I could do a meditation.
That would be nice.
Okay.
Yes, so just give me 2 minutes so that I can call Benaifa back because she has to go back and sleep with the babies. Benaifa, are you there? Benaifa, are you there?
Anu, give me a minute to set up.
Okay, my dear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, and I think let's just go in with the meditation after that. Like I said, whoever needs to leave, because I understand there are people in Singapore for whom this is like midnight and beyond that. And if you want to stay, I would love that. And Lucille is going to do something really special. People on the Facebook could also be there participating in what Lucille wants us to do as a group, and that'll be fun. So let's just see what Lucille has to give us today.
Let's see where it takes us.
Yeah.
So what I can do in the meantime is I can just tune into the group, get a little symbol, get a message, and I just trust where that energy takes us. And while Benaifa's work doing her bits,
yeah, that would be brilliant. That would be brilliant, and you never know who gets benefited by it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Benaifa, are you there?
Yes, Anu.
Thank you. So one reading for Ranjini, and for her dance and for everything that she's been doing. And I'm so happy that her dreams have really been fulfilled. I'm sure she's going to do a lot more work.
Sure. So, Ranjini, for you, I have got a a good time coming your way where family is concerned. You will maybe try and bond with them a little better. There are certain issues which have been bothering you regarding family. It can clear. So just work on that, and
Your voice is breaking.
somewhere you can be happy.
Your voice is breaking, Binaifa. Take off the camera and just talk.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Wonderful. So
Yeah,
just,
is this better?
yeah, so much.
Okay. So you need to be more happier from within, and you know what is troubling you. So you need to just ignore those points and just be happy for yourself. Forget the rest of the world. Forget what anyone is thinking. Just go ahead and be happy for yourself. And I'm getting that if you ask for help, it's going to be a wonderful journey for you, because a lot of things will open up and you will be able to work much better in a more organized and peaceful way. So please do ask for help, whether it is spiritual help from your guides or whether it is actual help from people who you know that they can help you, but somewhere you're just resisting that. So yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Binaifa. If you could read for Lucille.
Yes. Hi,
Thank you,
Lucille.
Binaifa.
Any questions?
I'm a little bit, I'm kind of tuned into the group, but let me, just see what Spirit shares with us.
Okay. Okay. Lucille, for you, I have got that you need to do some chanting or some prayers or something to really keep yourself, your aura very protected. You really need that right now. And yeah, for karmic clearing, you're going to get a lot of intuitions how you can help yourself and help people. So go ahead with that. Go ahead with your intuition, because you're getting strong intuitions. You just need to work a bit more with that. And there's going to be a lot of good downloads happening for you. So be open to receiving that channeling, because that is again going to take you on a beautiful journey inward.
Nice.
And family life, right now you might feel that it's slightly up and down, not very happening. So just work through that. Just allow things to flow through you, and that's where it will get settled, because good times are coming ahead as far as family is concerned.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you, Binaifa, tune into the whole group and just give us messages for the whole group?
Sure. So for the entire group, I'm getting that we need to really focus on our inward journey, and we need to start looking at things from a different perspective. Things have changed. The way we are living has changed. The way we are working has changed. So it has to be a part of us now. We cannot resist that. We have to go with that flow and start seeing things from a different perspective. Only then will the abundance start flowing into our lives. And a lot of karmic clearing is happening right now. A lot of people are getting new realizations, and they have started working on themselves, but we need to push ourselves a little more so that the transition is easy into this new phase of everyone's life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Binay, for really appreciate your presence and your reading. So let's go to right now Lucille back again, and will 15 minutes be enough, Lucille? Will that
What for the meditation or the
yeah, whatever you want to be doing right now, 15-20 minutes?
It might take a little bit longer, but I don't know if
That's
everyone's
okay.
a
That's
bit
okay.
tired.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead, and whoever is tired can leave. That's not a big deal.
Okay, let me just connect again.
Anya, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Very quiet.
You saw my messages, no?
No, I didn't.
No, I mean in the
Yes.
Hebrew graphic group, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Loved it.
no, but I'm doing well, thank you very much.
Congratulations. Very well.
And yourself, all okay? Yeah, late in the evening now, huh?
Yeah.
I think let's just maybe just do a meditation.
Okay.
Let's just see.
Let's do that.
So I'll just follow the energy and see where it takes us.
Okay.
Yeah. So is everyone seated and their feet on the floor? I'd just like you to get present with your pelvic area. Feeling into the bottom of your chair. I'd just like to take a moment of slightly rotate your pelvic area on the seat in an anti-clockwise direction. Just moving it around slowly in an anti-clockwise direction. You just imagine that your lower half, your bottom, and your pelvic area hitting around your lumbar spine. You can imagine you doing a pole dance. Your bottom around your coccyx in a clockwise direction. Your lumbar spine moving around. And just feeling if you can feel any discomfort in that area. Just moving it slowly round. Try to keep your spine erect. And allow your mind to move around, feeling into any discomfort in that area. Whilst holding your spine erect. I'd like you to take your attention to your shoulders while still maintaining the movement around your spine in an anti-clockwise direction. Noticing the positioning of your shoulders. Noticing the alignment of your shoulders. Imagining if you had to place a ruler on top of your shoulders, I'd like you to try bring the alignment of your shoulders equally aligned. So you're balancing that ruler across the top of your shoulders. And notice how it feels inside as you move in your lower half round in an anti-clockwise direction, whilst trying to maintain the straightness of your shoulders. Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel unusual? Different? As you're moving into what would possibly be an unnatural way of being, really having to consider how you're moving through the space in a way that doesn't feel natural. Perhaps it feels like you really needing to concentrate, really needing to put the effort into the movement, especially moving anti-clockwise around your spine, around your coccyx, while still maintaining the alignment between your shoulders. Perhaps you feel the resistance to this type of movement as it feels very unnatural, and perhaps you resist having to try a new way of moving your energy through space, through this space. Notice what feelings come up for you. Notice if you feel the tension in your muscles as your muscles are having to consider moving your body in ways that usually won't be required. Now, I'd like you to relax your thighs completely as you bring your lower half and bottom to a stationary position. Relaxing your thighs and relaxing your toes. Perhaps you may notice a slight tingling sensation in that area that you have worked. Notice how still your spine has remained as it has observed you moving in a different direction while still maintaining its position. Notice how still your spine feels as it maintains its position between your shoulders. Notice how still and aligned your shoulders are. Notice how this alignment has facilitated this movement into a new direction. A new direction that perhaps you have not yet considered as a possibility, and now you could consider it. Now you could consider it whilst maintaining your position. Notice how still your thighs are, how still your thighs are, still maintaining position. How the movement in this time, at this time and in this space has moved through possibility of a resistance that emerged, or has moved you through discomfort as you've walked your mind through the movement from start to finish. Noticing yourself, noticing how the energy can allow you new options of being, new ways to move through. Now, I'd like you to take your attention to your feet, noticing how they are placed on the floor, noticing the angle that they have chosen to be placed in from an unconscious placing. Noticing how far apart or close they are together. Does the one point in one direction, the other another? Do they point in the same direction? Exploring how you have unconsciously placed your feet upon the ground. Noticing how your feet feel inside your shoe, or your feet feel placed naked on the floor. Now, taking your attention from the tips of your toes all the way up your feet, connecting them to your ankles, connecting them to your calves and your shin, Noticing how quickly and effortlessly you're able to easily connect them up through your knees and through your thighs, making those conscious connections as you allow that energy to move in the same direction anti-clockwise around with keeping your body still, allowing that energy to move anti-clockwise around your coccyx and spine, noticing how easily and effortlessly this can be done as the energy maintains the position of your spine as it works its way up, maintaining the integrity of the alignment of your shoulders as it connects through your neck up to your crown chakra. Noticing how still and at peace your body has become. Noticing how still and at peace your body has become in this time and space. Noticing how quiet the energy has become as it surrenders to a new path that you choose now, easily and effortlessly now, allowing that energy to settle now, allowing that energy to settle now. As you slowly take your awareness to your breath, breathing in and breathing out as you give life to that new path now. Breathing in again and a deep out breath. As you slowly start allowing yourself to come back into your body, allowing the energy to move your body in this time and space, feeling into the rhythm of this energy now. Slowly becoming aware of your room that you are now occupying. Feeling to your thighs as you start moving your feet, raising your heels up and down, Moving your shoulders. And when you choose to start allowing the light to enter into your eyes, to become more present to the room. And that completes that.
Wow, that was amazing. How's everybody feeling? Okay. I think everybody's kind of in very deep place. So why don't you guys put down the messages in the chat box of how you're feeling, and I won't disturb you too much, because if you're really feeling like you have to just get into your bed right now, that's probably the best thing to do rather than wake you up.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Lucille. Thank you so much for today.
Pleasure.
Thank you everybody for being here. I am in deep gratitude to each and every one of you. And see, the internet did not collapse. Lucille, that's for you. We were having a chat yesterday, and today was supposed to be very difficult time for South Africa. There was supposed to be stormy day, and we were not supposed to be having an internet.
And there was no storm.
There was no.
It happened yesterday. Wow.
So things always happen. Thank you, everybody. See you
okay, thank you.
Just an announcement, on 28th, we have 2 speakers. One is, they're both husband and wife, which is first time that I'm presenting a power couple to you. The lady she's a conventional dancer, and she does something amazing. And her husband runs a train journey, which is called Yatra. And he's also been a TEDx speaker. And he does this, which is, even I don't know what it is about. So with you, even I will understand. He actually runs this train from one part of India to the other part of India, where you have creative people, healers, and all kinds of people on the train. They stay together, they get down together, they live together. And he's created this whole program which people attend. I think it's a 20-day or ride. You can get down anywhere and then go back again. So it's a very new concept, something that you would really like to understand, and maybe you can create in your own country, something like that. So it's called the Yatra. Yatra means a journey. So we are going to be having on 28th these 2 people. Thank you so much for being here, and good night, Shabba Khair, sleep tight, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Anu. Bye-bye. Thank you, Lucille. Thank you, Ranjini.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Where
you.
Where have you been? I missed you.
Anu, Vatsal wants to say thanks to you.
Thank you. कुठे आहे तू? दाखव.
1 minute. A light laws a light.
Light?
Law. Put on the light.
That's my little Marathi for my little baby over there. मी बघितलं नाही तुझं. तू कुठे आहे?
Nutan, how are you? Hello.
Love you. See
So
you.
how hot is it now in Mumbai?
It's never cold in Mumbai. It's always hot and hotter.
Really?
We don't know what cold means.
And I put on a jacket because it's cold.
And I used to live in a place called Czech Republic, where it used to